In this episode, we talk about a cake-cutting video that has put the Gujarat police in a spot. We also give you a quick update about the stampede that has killed at least 116 people in UP. But first, we talk about the new criminal laws that came into effect earlier this week. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. On Monday, the 1st of July, 3 new criminal laws came into effect in the country. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, and the Bharatiya Suraksha Adhiniyam replaced the Indian Penal Code, the Criminal Procedure Code, and the Indian Evidence Act, respectively. These laws were first passed in the parliament last December. According to the government, the intention behind them is to decolonize Indian laws. Home Minister Amit Shah, during the passage of these laws, had said that the Sanhitas represented laws framed by Indians for Indians.
ये तीनों कानूनों को रिप्लेस कर इनकी जगह जो 3 नए कानून बनेंगे, उनकी आत्मा होगी भारत के नागरिकों को संविधान प्रदत्त सारे अधिकार जो मिले हैं, इसकी सुरक्षा। ये कानूनों का उद्देश्य किसी को दंड देना नहीं होगा। इन कानूनों का उद्देश्य सबको न्याय देना होगा और न्याय देने की।
In this segment, we speak to Indian Express's Apurva Vishwanath, who writes on law for the paper, about the biggest changes these laws bring in. Apurva, the idea behind these new laws was that they would completely overhaul the existing ones. But has that been the case?
On whether there has been an overhaul of criminal laws, I think the answer is both a yes and no. Yes, because these are 3 new codes and they bring in substantial changes from new crimes, so to speak, expanding its ambit into areas of law where, the penalties are far more stringent and the processes also are far more stringent. Say, for example, anti-terror laws or laws involving organized crimes, right? So far, what you've had is special legislations for these things because they're clearly demarcated as separate from ordinary criminal law, right? Where the burden of proof is shifted onto the accused. And it happens a lot of our first principles that we know about criminal law. So in that sense, this is, a lot of new things that the 3 new codes do. In terms of why I say no is because there are also large portions of the law it retains. So this so-called undesirable parts of the penal codes as well. Things which could have had been changed, things where a relook was possible. Those things it retains. Say, for example, we've spoken about this before, the law on sedition. There is a name change, but the provision is still the same.
Right, and this is despite the fact that the government, when talking about these laws, had earlier said that they had removed sedition.
Yeah, Home Minister Amit Shah in the parliament several times said Rajdroh has been removed. But what he didn't say is that Deshdroh has come to the new law, right? So it's only a nomenclature change. See, other areas where there was significant debate and where the government could have actually had a look was criminalization of marital rape, which hasn't happened really. There has been a lot of conversation around reform in criminal law. It's nobody's case that India's criminal laws didn't need reform, right? It had to be updated. It had to keep pace with the Supreme Court rulings also on particular issues. But that part seems to have taken a backseat. And this fervor for including new laws, bringing in radical changes in procedure, that has taken center stage.
And now the Indian Penal Code has been replaced with the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. And you spoke about it earlier right now, but talk about some of the biggest changes that have been made under it.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the IPC itself, the big overarching change is the inclusion of these stringent laws under ordinary penal law. So what this could be in the future is bring in a sense of normalcy when you talk about special crimes. So anti-terror, we would say that somebody is booked under the UAPA. It's no longer that. They're booked under the criminal law, your basic Indian Penal Code. So there's always a category of offenses, both in how we think and how it operates in reality also, about ordinary crimes under the criminal code and crimes which endanger life and property at a very different level, which are penalized through special legislations. So special legislations also mean special forces for investigation, right? They are police who are trained to investigate these crimes, and also special courts where judges are also cognizant of what they're dealing with, right? And to not apply these stringent principles in ordinary criminal law. So this demarcation, both mentally and how it plays out in reality, makes a big difference. Now, inclusion of all of these in the penal code, there are concerns that this could lead to a normalization of, say, booking someone for under terror laws.
And when we talk about the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, clause 69 really stands out. This is the clause that appears to tackle the whole love jihad narrative. So can you talk about this clause and what exactly it says?
So clause 69 or section 69 is a new addition in the Nyaya Sanhita, and this penalizes a promise to marriage through deceitful means. And those deceitful means can mean grounds of race, religion, sex, and a lot of these things. And it's an overbroad provision and leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And especially when we are entering into the domain of personal relationships, whether it be marriage or whether it be live-in relationships, where criminal law enters your bedroom, it is a space where precision of the word that is written in the criminal code becomes very, very important. So new provision like this will have to be tested out in court and made sure there is no room for misuse of the law.
Okay, and we have been talking about the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which replaces the Indian Penal Code. But now let's talk about the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, which replaces the Criminal Procedure Code. Talk about some of the biggest changes that we see under it.
So apart from the Nyaya Sanhita, the maximum changes that you see are in the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, which is not a literal translation of the Code of Criminal Procedure, but the name that has been assigned to the law. It's only a Hindi name. There is no English name for this law. So here there are some worrying procedural changes that the law brings in. For starters, it allows trial in absentia, which means that even if the accused is not found, he's not physically present in court, the police has not been able to trace him, a court can proceed with the trial and sentence him, right? So this, in theory, I'm sure a lot of district court judges or, stakeholders in lower courts will tell you that the police has sometimes not been able to trace the accused and the case just is in cold storage, and then the trial cannot happen for many, many years. This is a genuine problem. But the solution to this is something that we'll have to see how it really plays out. A trial in absentia means it could be a disincentive for the police to actually make an effort, trace the accused, and bring them.
Right, and can you talk about this aspect a bit more and maybe tell us the kind of problems it can cause?
So there is a defense process that works when the accused is actually present in court. The onus is on the prosecution to show that it is only this accused who committed the crime. But a trial in absentia means the onus is essentially shifted to the accused who's now absconding or who's not present at all. So there is no credible defense really. And does this get you closer to the truth? We don't know that, right? If the police wrongly identifies someone as the accused, there is no way of knowing whether the police was right or wrong. And if you look at the other side, for an accused, let's say an accused is absconding, the trial happens. If he's acquitted, then well and good. But if you're convicted, you can then show up or not show up, right? One extreme view of how this could play out is to think that the accused may actually make an attempt to not show up and have the trial in absentia. So you don't know how this could play out. There is a reason why procedural law being watertight is such an important aspect of criminal law, right? So apart from the fact that, like I said earlier, precision and clarity of thought is very, very important in criminal law because the difference is really between liberty and the loss of liberty.
And Apurva, there has been a lot of talk about the expansion of detention in police custody under the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita. So can you talk about that and the kind of concerns it has raised?
Yeah, so one area that was of great concern for practitioners and academics was the period of custody. This is the pre-trial detention of an accused, right? The wording in the BNSS seemed to suggest that an accused can be detained in police custody for a period that is more than 15 days, which is what is currently allowed, right? So now what happens is when an accused is arrested, the police gets custody for up to 15 days. And after that, the accused is sent to judicial custody, which means like in the case of Delhi, they would be lodged in Tihar jail. So they would be under the supervision of the magistrate and not the police, so to speak, right? Why do we have an upper limit of 15 days for police custody? Because you want to ensure that the police finishes its investigation on time, right? If custody goes on forever, the police has no incentive to close investigation. And the other aspect is the minimum amount of time you spend in police custody, the lower the chances are of custodial torture or a forced confession. Our criminal laws do cast a healthy doubt, a suspicion against the state, because the state here is the mighty powerful with this whole criminal law apparatus at its hand, whereas the citizen has very little to negotiate with. So the law on these aspects has a healthy suspicion against the state and slightly tilts in favor of the underdog, the ordinary citizen. But what the wording of the BNS seemed to suggest is this period of 15 days could go up. But on 1st of July, hours after the new laws sort of came into force, Home Minister Amit Shah did speak to reporters and say that it was a clarification that was issued that the period of pretrial custody, police custody, still remains 15 days. But, and there's a very interesting but, that it could be staggered over a period of 60 days.
And when they're saying that custody will be staggered, it means?
So the police earlier would take 15 days at once and then it would be judicial custody. But now it could be 3 days of police custody, 2 days of judicial custody, and then the police could again want you for custody. And then they might say, we don't want you now. So, but for over 2 months or more, the accused can be doing this, moving between police custody and judicial custody, which still doesn't address or solve this issue of fear of custodial torture or fear of a forced confession. And also sort of gives police more time to keep at the accused and, prolongs the timeline for investigation as well. But the rationale of the government here is what Shah was hinting at yesterday was that when an accused is in police custody, there are cases sometimes where the accused then falls ill, say, for example, and has to be admitted in a hospital. And these 15 days are over. And now the police cannot get custody again. We've seen this happen in a couple of ED cases, which went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the question really was, when does that 15-day period get over? Is it at the start or can you spread it across for over 3 months? And it will be a maximum of 3 months because the police is required to file a charge sheet at the end of 3 months from the date of arrest. Failing which, the accused can be released on bail. So it is a maximum of 3 months. But in those 3 months, how you take police custody is something that we'll have to see how it really plays out.
And Apurva, we've spoken about concerns, but are there also certain aspects of these new laws that have come as positive changes that are being welcomed in that sense?
So another area that I think we'll have to see how it really plays out is the introduction of community service as a form of punishment. On the face of it, this seems like a welcome change because the story of under-trials and overcrowded prisons is not new in India. And to have an alternate form of punishment for certain crimes which are not really needed when it comes to a punitive sentencing, that community service works great. But having said that, the problem again here is the law does not define what community service is. So it really is up to the judge to decide it, right? And in India, you've seen several cases where this can very quickly go very wrong, especially in high-profile cases. And also, when you look at the law, there is sort of no coherence that is apparent on how they've selected which crimes should get community service. Say, for example, criminal defamation, the law under which Rahul Gandhi was convicted and his parliament membership was suspended in the last Lok Sabha, that is now punishable through community service. So had Rahul Gandhi committed the offense now and convicted, he would have actually gotten off with community service and may have not been disqualified. But for other smaller offenses, jail term still exists. So there is no rationale that is obvious in how they selected which crimes should get community service and which shouldn't. But again, the law should have been much more clearer on what constitutes community service, right? And the threshold for it. So some judge could say, kneel in my court all day. Some judge could say, like we saw in the Pune case of the minor, write an essay and you get off, right? So precision in law, again, here, this is one area, which is a progressive change, but it could have been done better.
And Apurva, since these laws were first introduced, could you talk about how different states have responded to them?
So all the states were asked by the center to weigh in and submit their views. And all of this was before the laws were passed in the parliament, right? So we don't know how much of it the center really took into consideration and changed. But, we've seen even just The week before implementation, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin wrote to Amit Shah asking for a deferral of the implementation of these laws, right? Both the chief ministers said there is a need for more capacity building and a lot of issues need to be sorted out before the laws are implemented. Also, we saw several states, non-Hindi speaking states, raise concerns that an official translation of the laws is still not available, and this is very important because a police constable, say in Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu, might not be reading them in Hindi or English, right? Or say in Assam, might not be reading them in Hindi or English. So regional translation of the laws to the people who are especially the custodians of these laws, it's very, very important. And frankly, for an everyday citizen, the most interaction you have with the state is actually through these criminal laws. I would go as far as to say it's not even the constitution, but it's actually the criminal laws, where this everyday interaction in almost every aspect of your life, including your personal space, happens. So it is very important to have these laws in regional languages for it to be more accessible and for it to be applied better.
And Apurva, can you tell us if there are things that sort of still remain unclear about these laws?
So it's not a question of whether it's clear or not clear, but it is really a question of how quickly can it go wrong? Because when there are two readings possible in criminal law, that's not a very desirable situation. And there are still some concerns which have just not been addressed. For example, even marital rape, for example, that is still pending before the court. So you could make a case that the government did not change because it's pending in the court. But you can't say the same for sedition. They did retain the law, despite the Supreme Court saying that it is prima facie unconstitutional. The exclusion of Section 377 entirely, that is a big area of concern. We have to see if the government will bring it back in some form or shape, because otherwise there is no provision right now in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita to penalize someone who is accused of raping a man. I mean, of course, the ostensible reason for its exclusion is that the Supreme Court struck it down. But that's not the right way to look at it. The Supreme Court only read down Section 377 to the extent that it criminalizes consensual homosexuality, right? For non-consensual sexual activity, 377 is still very much on the books, and its deletion is a big cause of concern.
And next we talk about the controversy involving a cake cutting ceremony. Last week on Friday, the Gujarat Congress posted a video that was apparently shot inside a police station in the state. A video where police officers were singing Happy Birthday. When we spoke to Indian Express's Sohini Ghosh, she told us about it.
So the Congress Gujarat Twitter handle, they put out a video where you can see around 10 uniformed police persons, including the DCP Kanan Desai. They are singing Happy Birthday. There are 3 cakes lined up on a table in front of them. Happy birthday, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. There are around 2 men and 3 women in plain clothes who we understand were civilians. The 2 men, one of them is a popular folk singer here called Yogesh Kadvi, and beside him is a BJP party worker cum leader called Himanshu Chauhan.
And this is the reason why the video went viral and prompted the Congress party to attack the ruling government.
So what we are seeing in this video is the police personnel, they start clapping and singing Happy Birthday. And they cut the cake. We see the DCP Kanan Desai feeding Chauhan a bite of the cake. And the whole thing is then concluded with a slogan of Bharat Mata Ki Jai by Yogesh Kadvi. So this video basically went viral.
Right, and talk about what the Congress has been saying about this video ever since it posted it online.
So the Congress obviously was critical of this move because you could see that this is being done in a police station. So the first thing the first line of attack that the Congress took was that, there are special arrangements being made by police now to celebrate birthdays of BJP leaders. And, the tax money, it goes to the police for law and order management, but it seems like it has become a Kamalam ka party hall. So Kamalam is the name of the headquarter here, BJP ka headquarter, which is in Gandhinagar. And the Congress went on saying that officials are acting like they are being paid by Kamalam and not by the public through their tax money. And they ended the tweet saying that the government must answer how this is happening, where a party leader's birthday is being celebrated in a police station, that to an ACP office.
And how did the Gujarat police and the BJP respond to these allegations?
So BJP has not particularly responded anything on this. And obviously, because this was made a bipartisan issue, it obviously caught wildfire and kind of went all the news channels, the local news, and even within the police ranks, the event got noticed and everyone knew what is happening. So the police, once the few media frenzy happened, following that, the police put out a statement. So according to the police, there was a blood donation drive that was organized at this police station in the walled city called Darya Police Station. And as part of the blood donation drive, some 670 units of blood was collected, which the police says was a record-breaking number. And the motivation behind the blood drive was basically to foster communal harmony, because Daryapur is supposed to be a communally sensitive area. And especially with the Rath Yatra coming, which has had a history of communal violence in the past, the police do take up these initiatives ahead of Rath Yatra. So the basic point of the police was, this was a blood donation camp that was organized. We've had great success in the camp. So the police officials and others, including members of the civil society or even local leaders or party leaders, they all had gathered at the police station to, in a way, congratulate or celebrate the success of the event.
And what did they say about how the birthday celebration began when they were celebrating the success of the blood donation drive?
So, according to the police, it was as part of the success, one of the women, she was named Noor Jahan. So she had brought in 3 cakes. According to the police, she is some way associated with a bakery business, which is why she got those cakes. And it is at this moment that Yogesh Gadvi apparently told the police persons present in the office that, oh, today is also Chauhan's birthday. And it was then that the police decided, as act of bona fide or whatever you might term it as, that, okay, let's sing happy birthday for him, which is what they did. And the video went viral. And this is how the police is justifying the entire event. Because even the Ahmedabad City Police Commissioner, he went on to add that there's nothing malified in the entire event and there was nothing political or partisan in the entire event.
And Sohini, have we seen anything like this in the past where something like this was caught on camera?
I mean, if I recollect from the past few years, I can't really think of an event where, this kind of birthday celebration or something very leisurely is being undertaken in a police station. So in a way, I would say this is a first if I consider the past couple of years. But, allegations of the police being partisan to the ruling party, it just keeps on coming every other day on several other issues.
Also, when you spoke to the police, they also tried to justify the whole thing by pointing out to the kind of cakes that were ordered. So can you tell us about that?
So one funny thing that the Ahmedabad City Police Commissioner said was, if had we been deliberately or meaningfully been celebrating the leader's birthday, it would have had happy birthday written on the cake. And moreover, there are 3 cakes. We won't be celebrating a birthday with 3 cakes. and it would have a happy birthday written over it, which was not. So, they are trying to build their case around that although the act in itself was inappropriate, regardless of what the event was, what you were celebrating, but the police has found its way to kind of justify their bona fide as well in the entire episode.
And in the end, we talk about UP. At least 116 people, mostly women, were killed yesterday in a stampede during a religious event in UP's Hathras district. According to officials, a satsang was being addressed by a religious preacher and his wife when the stampede occurred in the Rathibanpur village of the Hathras district. The preacher has been holding such events under the banner of Sakar Vishwahari Bhole Baba for over 2 decades. The Inspector General of Police for the Aligarh range said that an FIR is being registered against the organizers of the event. The officer also said that at least 15,000 people were present at the satsang, and while the exact cause of the stampede is unknown, most deaths were due to suffocation. Meanwhile, speaking on the matter, the state government said the number of devotees attending the satsang exceeded the limit permitted by the administration. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath announced financial assistance of 2 lakh rupees each to the families of the deceased. The Chief Minister, who is likely to visit Hathras today, has also formed a team to investigate the causes of the tragedy, directing them to submit their report within 24 hours. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.